My Time Podcast with Asher Tchoua.
Just trying to make moves, Asher.
I see that.
Yeah,
I was like, what's going on?
yeah, just trying to make moves. I just come to the conclusion I want to live, in my passion.
Hmm.
And not that I don't have a passion for sales or anything of that nature, because I think showing people how to make money is good. But I think there's a step before that,
Right.
that if getting your mindset right, getting getting things in proper order to go make money.
Right.
Everybody wants to make money, but for some of us, a lot of us, we can't get out of neutral. We're stuck. And
Right.
so I was having a conversation, and what kind of spawned it again, I was just having a conversation with one of the young men that was kind of, around on the football team when we kind of came up with Get You Ready On. And he was talking about his life, how, he was struggling.
Right.
And, and just talking to him and, say, hey, remember we always say, hey, get you ready on, come on, get your mindset right.
Right.
Refocus or whatever. And so, and when I left him, I started thinking to myself, I said, you've been working on this for a while. Why have you not taken this message out? Who are you, or what are you afraid of to get the message out?
Right.
And so I found myself like, okay, you're in that box that you're talking about. And so just kind of, I started just do some reevaluation, and I thought, I think I'm gonna, reach back out to Asher and kind of start there, and look to really formulate a game plan to start working with people, individuals, companies, because really, Asher, the training that I've done over the course of the last 30 years is some of the training that will be needed and Get You Ready On.
Right.
And so I thought, maybe let's not focus so much on the sales aspect of it. Let's focus on getting their mindset and giving them the tools, strategies, and tools, and then, let God take it from there.
Right.
Let him lead it. You don't need to be the money maker. Give them the tools, and then he'll take it from there. So that's what kind of got me going right there.
I got you. That makes sense. I guess it doesn't hurt to make a little bit of change on the side.
That's right. That's right. The goal is, I still got bills to pay.
Right.
But the goal is, if we can put people in a better position and position themselves better, by one, understanding who they are and how they operate, then they might not be so critical on themselves when they don't achieve something.
Got you.
Because they might be running into a wall and they just didn't know that wall was coming.
Right.
Kind of like the blind spots. And so, obviously when we get into the acronym for, action, and that's why it's first.
Right.
Because
that makes sense, because the, I guess just to give you a preview, or I guess, we're talking now, but I guess you'll be able to see it this coming week. So what I went ahead and did, I think it'll work out well, because the last conversation we had talking about sales, that's actually going to premiere this coming Tuesday. So the 20th. So that's going to be the first video. And then in 3 weeks, people are going to see the first conversation we had back in 2020.
Okay.
And then the following week, they're going to see a conversation almost a year and 10 days later. So it'll be interesting to see like the after, the before, and then the after again. So it'll be like, okay, there's a progression going. But I think regardless of how the times kind of fell and how he wanted to arrange it and orchestrate it, I guess some people say God works in mysterious ways, or just, hey, things have a way of working themselves out, because the thing with sales, like I don't hold that against you, because it's like, it makes sense. And I really like I like how we're putting it out because it was really like a short, like I think it ended up being like, or it'll end up being 30 minutes or so, where
Yes.
um let me I need to close some of the apps on my end. My computer's telling me that I've got too much going on in the
Too
background.
much going on.
Yeah. Like I think that's it's not just talking about my computer, but it's trying to tell me something personally, but I accept it and I move on.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
let me
Well,
close all this other stuff up. But to that point, I think the message that you said in the last recording was powerful in the sense that I titled it "No One's Hiring Your College Degree," and it
mm,
really goes to a big misconception to address that, to be like, okay, look, like what you think you're going to get, you're not going to get unless you really understand what it is that people are looking for or employers are looking for. They're looking for you to have this ability. So
mm,
going through the training, it's going to help you get that. But to your
yeah,
point now, what we're focusing on and what you really need to start with is that action and the
that's right.
mindset, which is saying you got to get your mind right. You got to get that going because in the times when your training might fail you,
Yeah.
your mind needs to be there. Like those mental skills, that
Yes,
repetition, that preparation you did beforehand, so long as you have your mind right, you can
yeah,
respond in a moment of chaos. And that just
exactly.
kind of came to me because I watched this interview for a fight that's happening today.
Okay.
Or I don't know if you follow fighting or boxing or anything like that,
Not much, not much.
but essentially what's going on is that today there's a YouTube personality by the name of Jake Paul that
Okay.
he recently, oh, you've heard of it.
Yeah, I've heard of, yeah, I've
Gotcha.
heard of him.
So it's
But
like it's somehow or another it's kind of transcending outside of where it is because of how popular he is or he might be. But him and his
yes,
brother, they got into boxing and they've been training legitimately, but the way that they present themselves online, it's attractive to some and repulsive to others. Like y-
okay.
your audience is your audience, but essentially he's challenging someone that's like an all-time wrestler,
Yeah.
like, right, so it's like you have a boxer that's an amateur, but he's very good at his skills. He's
Yes.
challenging a wrestler that's like world class, but
Yeah.
he's not known for his boxing. So the thing is that like, okay, did you go and try to find somebody with the biggest name, but
Yeah.
that's the worst boxer out of all mixed martial arts, to just be like, okay, so long as I beat this guy, then I'm
Yeah.
gonna be elevated on my platform. But
Hmm.
I listened to the interview with Teddy Atlas and the guy that Jake is going to be facing, who's Ben Askren. And
Uh-huh.
I'd never really heard him in an interview or a conversation. And that's why I enjoy podcasting so much, is
Yeah.
because you get to actually sit down and hear someone tell you about who they are.
Yeah.
And it's not a sound bite. So you like, at least for me, I had a chance to meet him for the first time or understand him, because all I knew of him was like, okay, he likes to talk smack to build
Yes.
up a fight, which is what you need for promotion.
That's right. You gotta
And
sell something.
right, right, you got to sell something.
You gotta sell
But it's
tickets.
like, aside from what he's selling with his mouth, he
Yeah.
has that experience and he's had, like he said, over 2,000 wrestling matches. And when I think back to it, I don't even remember the count of wrestling matches that I had, but I'm sure
Yeah.
it would be at least 100, going from 7 years, 3 in middle
Yeah.
school, 4 in high school. And
Wow. Didn't know that.
there were a ton more losses than wins, but like now, taking the time to really go deeper and understand in watching an interview, hearing what the people are saying and like holding on to that,
Yeah.
like it just opened my eyes in a different way, to where he says like, and I heard different people say this. It's, you have one person that's going into it like, okay, it's a boxing match. The
Yeah.
other person is a world class competitor. Like he's
Yeah.
fought in different organizations. He's fought through adversity. Like one of the last things he's known for is for getting knocked out with a vicious flying knee within
Yep.
5 seconds, and that made like the headlines.
I
And to
think I
see
remember
that,
that.
right. So it's like everybody sees that, but to see that, okay, he survived that obviously, but he's been able to bounce back and he
That's right.
still coaches kids. And I guess that's the thing that kind of hit me, where it's like, okay, you're always taught to give back from the time that you go through a program, you go through something's like
Yeah,
somebody looked out for you. So it's your job to always try to like find someone to mentor and
yeah,
actually put the time in and teach them something that you've learned. That way you pass on the knowledge and you don't just like keep it up to yourself and become
right.
like a curmudgeon or just like, ah, like
Yes,
I know all this stuff. But it's like, okay, yeah, you might know all that stuff, but if you're not willing to give it to anyone or part with it, then
yes,
you're always going to be bitter because you're so consumed with what it is that you've done or you haven't done.
yeah.
And that, that, yeah, for some
It,
reason that just came to mind. And I was like, in the
yes,
moment, whenever we were talking initially, I was like, okay, hey, you want to do a podcast? Let's get on, let's chat.
yes.
And then when you said you wanted to talk about Get You Ready On, I was like, okay, that makes sense because regardless of where you go, that's always going to be with you. You have to get your mindset right.
And you're so right, Asher, about everybody's got a story. Everybody's got, or put it, everybody's got a message. And for me, I had to, finally come to the conclusion that there may only be one person out there that needs to hear this message. But if that one person gets inspired by it and gets empowered by it so that they can move forward in their own life, because you and I both know we think we're the only ones that have a certain problem. Until you get in the room and you listening to everybody, you're like, well, heck, that sounds like me. I didn't know y'all had that problem. But
Right.
that's what life is about. And that's why, we go with our, our main tagline: when the game of life starts to challenge you, get you ready on, because it's challenging for everybody.
Mm.
Race don't matter, gender don't matter. Everybody's going to get their share of challenges, and the older that you are, the more challenges you get.
Right.
And if there's no reward. Sometimes I think there's not a reward for being old. You know what I'm saying? You keep getting these same. It's like there's no cutoff point to where you're like, oh, I'm good now. The rest of my life, I'm good. Now it just doesn't matter. And and I have a mom who's 88 years old to remind me of that.
Oh,
That
wow.
hey, it keeps on going. Don't worry about it. So that's what got me refocused again. And I just thought, I'm going to get the message out.
Mhm.
We're going to see if we can empower lives, help people get out of neutral,
Mhm.
give them some strategies and tools to help them, whether they want to be an entrepreneur, whether they want to be, give them the basics and then let them run with it and have their own story, how they overcame something. Because Get You Ready On has the ability, I always ask people, or I don't always ask, but somebody asked me one time, what has happened in your life where you had to make a decision that altered the direction of your life to a certain extent, to where it made it better?
Right.
And we've all had one of those that kind of altered it to where, man, if I hadn't have did that, there's no way I'd be where I'm at today. And when you think about it, it's that initial, what we call Get You Ready On moment. And for a lot of us, mine was like, I'm 15, 16 years old when I had one of those initial moments that I had to make a decision, get my mind right, get my body right in order to where I'm at today. There's no way physically I'd be where I'm at today if I hadn't have made that decision with some help of other people, mind you, to get here.
Right.
And so we want to hear people's Get You Ready On moments. We want to know, what's that one moment in time that it changed the direction in the course of your life because you did what? And how'd you go do it? And what made you do it?
Gotcha.
And it's amazing, my partner's story and my story, it's we all come from different places, and you're like, ooh, I would have never made it out of there. How'd you make it out of there? I never could have.
Right.
I never could have lost 45 pounds. How'd you lose 45 pounds? Just different stories. And that's, when we were growing up, and I always, a good friend of mine is from think, West Senegal. Good friend, he's from West Senegal, and listen to his stories. And basically, that's how we were raised, is off of somebody else's story. How they went through some type of trials and tribulations, and they gave you that information so that it would help you maybe overcome that if it should ever happen. Well, we don't do that much anymore. Everybody's on the phone.
Right.
The older generation, they're like, well, y'all don't want to talk to us, so we'll get on the phone, But when I was growing up, and I think you were too, there's a lot of times, hey, you just sit down and listen. Just listen. Don't ask no questions.
It's funny. It's funny. That's becoming my theme for the month. Just listen before I respond, because as I'm finding out, just kind of going through coaching, going through counseling, and really just experiencing life after the fact, or reflecting on what's happened in the week, whether I journal it or I discuss it. It's really understanding this week is that listening is something that I need to practice, and not just in the fact of, like, obviously as we're talking right now, I'm listening to you, but sometimes, or many times, I've found myself listening to just respond or reply, or depending on what's being said, how it's being said, I can find myself looking to defend myself, looking to get away, just like, okay, what's going on? Because, like, hey, it's easy to listen when you're listening to like smooth jazz, everything's just flowing like back and forth, no problem. But then if someone's cussing you out, like throwing you the bird, like chasing you down, running after you, you're trying to be like, okay, do I sit here and listen to what's going on? Or like, I mean, if you see it pretty apparent, it might be telling you get out of the way. But sometimes as you're getting out of the way, you might, I saw that I have to be cautious of how I reply.
That's right.
Because if somebody comes cussing me out, I can just as easily cuss them out and make a scene.
Yes.
And it's like, at the end of that, what did I gain? Did I get my point across? Did how some people would say, like, oh, you really showed your behind on that one. It's like, so it's like,
you can easily, there's another word, but yeah, that's nice.
Right. It's like you can easily do that. And I guess sometimes I'm trying to, I guess at times I hesitate because I don't really cuss much, or I found myself doing that in private.
Yeah.
But at other times I'm like, okay, well, there's more than one way to say something. So it's like, I don't have to be PG all the time, but I choose to at times. But you know what I mean when I say you can either be showing yourself, and it's like, once you kind of come back to yourself, you ask yourself, either you'll ask yourself or someone will point it out to you, be like, okay, like, yeah, you really showed out on that one. So it's like, what'd you gain?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
What message did you get from that? And it's ironic that you brought that up, because my father was a military man and straight and direct. And, as a young man growing up, sometimes he could be, intense in how he delivered the message to you.
Right.
And which would get me emotional. And so that would make him mad. And so finally he told me, he says, you have to learn to take your emotions out and just listen to the message. He says, you're worrying about how loud I am. Just listen to the message. So, it took me a long time I would have to shut my eyes and just tone him out.
Right.
And listen to what he was really trying to tell me that I needed to correct, instead of getting emotionally because he was yelling.
Right.
And, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, so as I've gotten older, but you're right. Sometimes we always it's easy to defend ourselves, and nobody wants to listen to negative, being criticized or being talked to negatively, and I just try to pride myself on being a better person. But there's times where you can go back to the streets real quick, if you need be. I don't like you, but that's where I asked the Lord, hey, you got to help me on this one. because I'm
Right.
about to lose control. You know?
It's funny when you said go back to the streets on this, like I see you now, and I'm sure somebody else they're watching, they're like, they see your demeanor, they're like, Avery in the streets? What?
Yeah,
What's
yeah,
that look
yeah,
like? And it's like,
yeah, yeah. We all come from somewhere.
right.
Yeah.
It's like you might not think it, but hey, just because I look all
Yeah,
I
yeah,
guess maybe now it's a bad reference, but I guess back in the day people would make reference to like the Fresh Prince or like
yeah,
Carlton's a good reference. I was gonna say
yeah.
Cosby, but I was like maybe everyone's steering away from him.
That's
But it's
right.
like
Yeah,
before everything else that came out, it's like it was a good comparison to be like, okay, you can be all buttoned down, middle
that's
class
right.
looking. Like I guess some people, of course, like I've had the expression expressed towards me. It's like, oh, you're behaving quote unquote white. And it's
Okay.
like, oh,
Yeah,
okay. Well, for me, it's just one of those, okay, well, I guess to be honest, I grew up around more white people and I didn't grow up
okay.
around as many black people because it's like there just weren't that many.
Yeah,
And the feedback that I got at the time, like in middle school, elementary school, was
yeah,
more or less negative. So it's like, okay, well, do you run to the people that either reject you or do you run
yeah,
to what you've been told is not so great, even
yeah,
though if it's someone that looks like you,
yeah.
just to be accepted? Or
That's
do you
right.
just go with everybody else? Do you just kind of dip into the melting pot where everyone else accepts you? Because for me, it's like I remember my fifth grade year, went to school here in City Park, and it was the first time that we were at a school that was just all fifth graders. So
Yeah,
I remember some of the guys from my class, and I hope to catch up with some of them soon
yeah,
and have them on here. But like my buddy Vinny, he was from India. Um, I remember Jimmy, he was from Pakistan. You
yeah.
had a few other friends that were Mexican or of Hispanic ethnicity. You had
Hmm.
a couple of black friends, you had some white friends. So it's like it's just this mix. So
Yeah,
in essence, you kind of like you're a piece of everybody else, but because it wasn't rap, hip hop, people just
that's right.
assume it's like, oh, you're not black. It's like, oh, somebody white would walk up to me and be like, oh, I'm blacker than you. And I was like, oh, okay, like yeah, I
Yeah,
guess I guess we just got swapped in the wrong bodies, but I guess
yeah,
my skin
yeah,
doesn't mean much. But what one thing that I've come to understand and come to appreciate as an adult is just that, hey, regardless of what people may say or people may
that's
think,
right.
it's like my experience is my experience,
That's
and
right.
now I can be proud of it. And I think sometimes it's funny because I think, are they really projecting what they want for me, or are they
Yeah,
just letting me know, man, you missed out. You really missed out. You man, you're missing out. You're really missing out. Okay, I need you to go here. I need you. I was like, oh, okay, cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
All right. I'll
yeah.
I'll
What am
make
I
a mental
missing?
note of that. But it's like I'm not gonna stop what I'm doing. Like you're assuming that because I'm not living the life you wanted
That's
to
right.
live, that I
That's
need
right.
to stop all the progress that I'm making and
Exactly.
go live your life. And I was like, nah, like I'm good. Like
Yeah.
before I
You
used to
know,
be like, oh man, oh no, what's going on? But now it's like, oh, okay, well, it's okay. Like
yeah.
I'm glad I'm bilingual, like
That's right.
not as well as I would like to be, but like I can still go back, pick up some French. Once I start
Yeah.
talking with somebody, it'll start to flow a little bit. And then
Yeah.
if I want to learn the mother language, the mother tongue, it's like
Yeah.
eventually that's something that I can learn. But just being different, being made fun of it, it's like
Part
it
of it.
really doesn't bother me that much because
Yeah.
now like the same people that were making fun kind of look at and be like, okay, you know what? I respect you because in a way, and that's something else. I feel like I'm probably going off on a tangent,
No, you good. Hey, go
but
ahead.
something that I've come to appreciate about being like in the quote unquote black community in America is that in a way that people might pick at you or joke at you, it's kind of a test to be like, okay, we're a resilient people.
Yeah.
So you can't just come in all the times and just be like, oh, my feelings, my feelings, my
Yeah.
feelings. Like, yes, you have to be able to feel things and you can express things through passion, or some people would
Hmm.
say anger,
Yeah.
this, that, and the other, but there's different levels to it. And back to what your dad was saying,
Yeah.
you have to be willing to hear the message
That's
and
right.
not always how it's presented, to be able to
Right.
receive what's being said to you. Because then
So
as you're able to do that within your community or within the people that you'll come to respect, people that you'll learn to be appreciative of, then it's like, okay, you can understand, you can empathize better with someone's struggle, even though for
yeah,
me, not having gone through the same struggle, not having had the history or the lineage, or just like, although I look like somebody, they may automatically assume like, okay, like, hey, you look like me,
yeah,
respect. And at times I may feel weirded out about it, but I'm like, okay, like, I appreciate you acknowledging me, and I also
yeah,
give you the same acknowledgement back. Like, I might
yeah,
not know the proper language to use
yeah.
just yet,
Exactly.
but that can be learned over time. But so long as we're talking, so long as we're communicating, like,
That's
hey,
right.
it's all good.
Exactly, and that's a. I mean, that's a whole session in itself.
Mhm,
Growing up in the military, 99% of the friends were white,
mhm,
and I remember, and I went to college down in East Texas, and
right.
so predominantly more African Americans down there,
Mhm.
and when I got to college, they could tell that you're not from around here. Nope.
Where are you
Man,
from,
hey,
boy? You're not
that's
from
right.
around here.
Hey, and proud. Hey, I'm proud of it. That's what I tell them. And proud of it. And I have a bunch of cousins and stuff down there. We get together and they go, "Well, you talk white."
Right.
I didn't.
That's
I didn't know.
another one.
Yeah, I didn't know the difference. I'm just
Right, right.
talking. But it's. Yeah, you go through those things, and I'll tell you this one, and then we'll move on. In the auto industry, you do a lot of what's called dealer trades.
Mhm.
Now, are you taping this portion right
Yeah,
now?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. Well, is this gonna be on the video?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Well, I need to be careful then.
Got you. Well,
But
I mean,
anyway,
if you want me, I can pause it and then we can come back. You want me to pause it?
yeah, just pop.
It's funny because, what is it? Sometimes you call it, uh, BK. I think, coded it properly, and I think they made a movie about this called Code Switching, where it's like you got the the, phone personality, and then you've got, like, the in-person personality, which can still go back and forth, and some people
That's
would
right.
say, like, that's the business sense, and then this is your other.
That's
And I
right.
I talked with my buddy Theo, and he was just like the same thing with him being a barber, where he answers the phone like, "Oh, hey, this is Theo. How are you doing?" And then people show up thinking that it's a white barber shop, and then they're just like, "You are you? Yep, yep, that's me. That's me. Come on, let me take care of you." And then once they get to talking, they get to
Yeah,
rolling a bit. It's
they
like, oh, okay,
good.
cool. Like they kind of get over like the misconception in their mind, and
Yeah,
then they're just like, oh, okay, like cool. But it kind of goes back to that thing of like, I guess everyone has their biases, and it's never like for me,
they just don't know.
I've learned never to make it personal, because it's one of
That's
those
right.
things is like you get conditioned by your environment, and then as you start to think on things more clearly, you're like,
Yeah,
okay, well, everything I was taught, I don't necessarily have to keep it with me, because
yeah,
hey, whenever you're told to do something, whenever you don't want to do it, you don't really go asking for permission to be like, oh, can I
yeah,
do this, or should I not, like we were talking about with running through the toll
yeah,
booth or running through lights. Like, hey,
yeah.
sometimes you just
You
got
just
to
gotta
get
go.
going.
Yeah, you got to go and quit worrying about it and overthinking it but yeah, that's our message. We
Mm,
want to empower people to excuse me, to take action
right.
on goals in their lives, and the first thing is you got to get your mindset right.
Yeah.
And so at the end of the day, we want to get your minds ready for action.
Mm.
And it's
Tell me about the action. Like, why did you decide on action?
action, and I'll just tell you, and it goes back to, and I'll tell you a little bit about my story.
Mhm,
When I was a junior in high school, between my going into my junior year, like
mhm.
I said, I've always played sports, athletic, kind of a heavy set kid, but not really heavy set. But this
Right.
particular summer, I didn't work out. I didn't do what I needed to do to get ready for football.
Mhm,
And probably what was more important is I didn't even want to get ready. And matter of fact, when it came, I was like, man, it's football already.
mhm.
Well, I quit, and I quit within like 2 weeks.
Right.
And a good friend of the family, the coach, came to the house. I'm in the basement, and he's asking me what's going on. And I said, Coach, I really don't feel like playing football. And he says, well, I noticed that you weren't in the best shape. He says, does that have something to do with it? And I said, probably. And, not to make up any excuses, it was what it was. And that's when he told me, he says, here's the thing. He says, you need to take action on something. He says, if you don't want to play, that's fine. He says, but let me tell you about life. Life is difficult if you do not take action. And so I've always used that word when I needed to get myself rejuvenated,
right,
or get going. And so when he was talking about the taking action, he was talking about getting my mind right. He says, you got to win the game on the inside before you can win the game on the outside.
Right.
And so when I got to the point to where the school year was over, and I bumped into him again, and he says, are you coming out for football? I said, yeah, I'm coming out, because I'd made my decision. I'm coming out. Right. He said, you got to lose some weight. And at that time, I'm weighing 240, 245. And he says, you need to be 225 or don't even show up. And I like, oh, okay, I got that. And I remember Asher, when I walked away from him, I was like, you ain't never lost a pound in your life. Yeah. How you going to lose 20 pounds right now and get ready? And there's that self-doubt. Right off the bat, my mindset said, hey, you can go work out, but we not in on that program. Right. So you need to figure something out. And so, but by the time I got home from that, I'd made a decision. Okay, if this is what it takes, you need to get your mind right, and we need to put a game plan together on making it happen. Right. And so action has always been my go-to. When I get my mind focused on what I needed to achieve, I've had some great successes in my lifetime. Not everything has been successful that I have tried to do, but for the most part, I've gotten my mind involved. And to the point to where by the time I got to camp, I'd surpassed the 225. I actually showed up at camp at 205. I got to the point to where once I got the momentum, once I saw 1 or 2 pounds, 3 or 4 pounds come off, I was good. Right. And that right there, and there's a whole lot more to the story, but Asher, that right there changed the course of my life for me. Right. Because from that point on, I've always been what I would consider in shape. I've always made sure I took care of my health. Yep. And so it changed the course of my life, because if not, I was headed down the wrong road. Right. And what it did too, it made me understand that if you get your mindset involved in the game before you get all the trinkets, all the toys of being who you want to be, get your mind in the game first. It'll take you through the valley of the disappointments and the obstacles that you got to face. And I believe a lot of people don't get their mindset involved. Right. They just say, okay, I want to be this. Okay, what's it take to be that? Right. What's the transformation? Right. That makes sense. It's funny because we were talking about alignment earlier, and as you said, there's more to the story, and the way it's going to fall in place is that at the time people can hear this, they can always go back to what's going to be episode number 53, where you talk about that. And I think I titled it Belief Transforms, and basically talking about how you went from that moment where your coach was like, you got to lose that weight or else don't even show up. That's right. So just from that, I know you speak on action, and it's also not just the word, but it's also an acronym. So can you kind of walk me through that acronym? Yes. And so, get your ready on. It's about get your minds ready for action. Right. And so A in action stands for awareness. And we're talking about self-awareness. Right. We believe there's a better case of you being successful when you understand what your strengths are and what your limitations are and how you handle certain situations. Right. And so to understand of your awareness, self-awareness, it's going to give you a roadmap on just who you are and why you keep getting stuck. Right. Why you keep getting into the potholes of life instead of going around them or just going right over them. And so self-awareness, I think, is the first thing, because if you can understand who you are and how you handle certain situations, you won't be so hard on yourself, first of all.
Gotcha.
And
And
then you will also notice them when they're coming. You're like,
right,
oh, okay, here it comes again. Let
right.
me just prepare myself for that.
Gotcha. And I guess
See,
that as you're talking about the self-awareness, I'll stay on this point for a
yes,
little bit. Um, are you still looking to use the DISC assessment through this to help people become
yes,
self-aware by saying, "Hey, take this questionnaire, sit down, just go through it, and then we'll get like an ebook printout saying that these are some of your tendencies. This
yes,
is why you're stumbling where you may be stumbling, or this is where you're shining where you may be shining. You have this tendency based on this paradigm that you've had since childhood, or this paradigm since you had since this win or this loss."
exactly. It's just a go-to.
Right.
I believe everybody has the best intentions, or I had the best intentions on
Mhm.
becoming certain things, or certain people, or certain
Right.
opportunities. But I have a certain makeup that just seemed like I was just bumping up against a wall.
Mhm.
And if I would have known, okay, here's where you're going to struggle,
Right.
then I can prepare myself for the struggle.
Mhm.
If it's kind of like coaching or relationships. If you understand where you're going to have your downfalls, or somebody can tell you,
Mhm.
then you start working on those.
Right.
Now it's not a situation where we want to take advantage of your limitations.
Right.
Really, we want to know what your strengths are so we can help grow those.
True.
Because you may have a strength that really is better suited in another arena than
Mm.
the arena that you're trying to be
Right. Right.
in.
And
And
that's
so
yeah.
I think that's key right there. Some of us, we don't know what that arena is
Mhm.
until we get in there and we're like, oh, okay, why is this so difficult?
Right.
Because you probably need to be in another arena and find an opportunity in that. And so we just want to take some of those barriers out of the way and
Mhm.
just give you a blueprint on who you really are and
Right.
what your strengths are, and how we can help elevate those strengths to help you achieve this goal that you have in your life, regardless of what it is.
Right. And when you say we, you're talking about yourself and your
A team.
associates through
Yes.
your team.
Yes,
Gotcha.
exactly.
Got it. And I guess that going from the A in action to the next letter in the C, that those two just tie straight together.
Yes. C is clarity.
Mm.
Being clear, having clarity on exactly what you want to do.
Right.
And I use this as a analogy of, and I'm gonna use me.
Right.
I want to be a speaker.
Mhm.
I've got all the tools around me. I got microphones, I got lights,
Yeah.
I got all the tools and everything, but I don't have clarity on how I'm going to become that speaker.
Mm.
There's tools that I need somebody to give me, or coach me, or teach me how to get clarity on it.
Right.
If you're not clear on the objective, then you keep going around the objective, and that's the reason why you haven't got started, because
Right.
you're not clear on it.
Right.
And so we
Right.
want to help you create clarity on what it is, what goal you're trying to achieve, and
Mhm.
to help you identify what the process is to get to there.
Right.
And
Right.
so clarity in, if you want to be an entrepreneur, or if you want to be, whatever it is,
Mhm.
you got to be clear on the objective of what it's going to take to get to that point.
Right.
And then secondly, is it concise, and is it written down?
Right.
Is it something you're just making up, or is it something that you got a blueprint?
True.
And so clarity on what you want to be, clarity on your message, clarity on uh, your job. It's kind of like when I started selling cars. I didn't have any clarity on that.
Mhm.
And that's why I struggled.
Right.
But when I got some training,
Yeah.
and I got clear on how this objective worked, then
Mhm.
I was good. I was good to go. So clarity
Gotcha.
is that action, the C in
Right.
action.
That makes sense. And I guess the thing that's funny with it is that even before the people get to you or connect with you and your team is that in order to have like a takeaway, it's that when you talk about awareness, just taking the time to just sit silently and just reflect, if it's for a minute, if it's for 10 minutes, like just taking that time to think by yourself and write down where it is that you are, what is it that you know intuitively, but then
Mhm.
having another tool to come alongside that, that's been researched and been, that's constantly being updated, but to be able to give you a bigger set of blueprints to say, okay, here are some other things you may consider. I
Mm-hmm.
think that that goes well. And like you're saying again, with the clarity, which probably leads to the next letter in the T, is that to be clear, you have to acknowledge where you are. And again, writing it down, whether it's, I think they say there's a power in writing something down with pen and paper, as much as technologies may evolve. And if that's
Mm-hmm.
your thing to text it out, put it in your phone, regardless of how you do it,
Mm-hmm.
put it down in a place that you can remember and come back to frequently, to where you continue to revisit it,
Mm-hmm.
and it lets you know where you need to be and where you're going, and not worried
That's right.
about where the country's going, where your
Mm-hmm.
neighbor's
Yeah.
going, what car they're driving, this, that, and the other. It's like the more clear and self-aware that you are, I think the I know, I don't think I know it's the better off you are, because for myself,
Yeah.
going through coaching and counseling personally and
Mm-hmm.
addressing the things in my life on a weekly basis as to here's what I did, here's what happened, here's how it responded, here's how I felt, that gives me clarity on what I'm going to do today. I'm
Yeah.
not, it helps me plan for tomorrow, but it helps me deal and
More.
address today.
Okay. You're exactly right. In the automotive industry, starting off as a salesperson, working my way up to management. One of the things that my owner constantly was telling me, because I would talk to him at the end of every month, I'd go in there and tell him I want to be a manager.
Mm,
What do I need to do to become a manager?
right.
And he would always tell me, he says, you need to be consistent. You need to have your desired results
Mm,
written down on a daily basis.
right.
And, he just, everything he talked about was just about today.
Right.
He says, quit looking down the road, take care of today.
Right.
We have a saying, yesterday's gone,
Mhm,
tomorrow's not promised. Today's the day to take action.
mm,
Don't worry about those other days. Today is the day to take action.
right. So tell me about that taking action.
Taking action. T is a good one.
Yeah.
Tenacious.
Mm,
You need to be tenacious in your preparation. The level of your success will be determined by the level of your preparation.
mm,
If you half step it, you're going to get half results.
right.
If you try to cut corners, you try to cheat the system.
Mhm,
When they say run a mile, they didn't say run 3 3/4 of
right.
a mile. They say run 4 miles to
Right.
get it. And I didn't run track. I had a good buddy of mine. He ran track and he was a 400-meter runner.
Right.
And his coach always, I could hear him yelling out there. He says, I need my 400.
Mm,
Not 399. I need 400.
right.
Don't cheat me.
Right. That's the 400 meters for anyone
That's
that's
right.
not familiar with track and field. It's
Yes,
that
yes, 400 meters.
one lap around the
Yeah,
track.
yes,
'Cause
yeah.
every time I'm like, my metric system may not be there at times, but then when I realized that again, back to school
Yeah,
doing wrestling for 7 years, I also did track for 7 years, because
yeah,
it's like, as a sixth grader, that's the two sports you were allowed to do. Like, you couldn't do
yes,
football yet, you couldn't play basketball, and I never ended up playing basketball, but I wrestled and I ran track, and it's like,
yes,
okay, you've got everything's in the metric system, so it's not
yes, yes.
impossible to learn.
There you go. But yeah, being tenacious with your preparation, understanding that you have got to go step by step. You've got to know it like the back of your hand.
Mhm.
Also, if you're an entrepreneur, being tenacious in preparation means you need to know who your competitors are.
Right.
You just need to know everything that could stop you from being successful is
Mhm.
part of your preparation. And so
Right.
just be tenacious with it. Don't, if you think you know everything,
Mhm.
go find something,
Right.
because that'll be the one thing that'll stand up in your face and stop you from being successful. And so
Mm.
be tenacious about it.
Right. And it's funny because I've probably said this in the past, where you think you're not able to do something regardless of what a test may tell you or what the end results are. You may think that, okay, I'm not this, or I don't have this tendency, or
Mhm.
I I may not be detail oriented, but I think it all has to do with what it is that you're focused on. Because if it came to someone telling you about a reality TV show, and it's nothing against reality TV, but it's just like a perfect example. Someone that's very interested in it can
Mm,
tell you every detail of like, okay, the Kardashians, like I don't
mhm.
know anything about them, but somebody else could tell you what their names are, what city they live in, maybe even what like in the vicinity of their address, like what age they are,
Mhm.
who they're dating, who this, that, and the other. It's all a matter of like what you focus on and what you
Mhm.
choose to accept. So if you love the Kardashians, hey, love on them, but
Yeah.
be aware that that's your thing that you're choosing. If for
Yeah.
somebody else, for myself, it's if it's like science, if it's
Yeah.
the maths and things like that. A lot of people say, "Oh, I can't do math." Like it's like, no, it's not that you can't, but in the same time that you say you cannot do something, you're right.
Yes.
You can't do it because you keep reinforcing the
Yes.
things that you want by saying what you don't want, but the way in which you speak, you continue to attract that tenaciously.
Yeah.
Like, yes, you're terrible at math because you don't practice, but someone that might look at you or me, they might be like, "Oh, you were always a great salesman or you were
Yeah.
always great at math." And like you said in your story before, it's like you had to keep going back over and over and over and continue to tell him like, "I want this job. I want this
Yeah.
job," until he's just like, "Okay, fine. Like, come work." And by the time you were getting ready to quit to be like, "Okay, I'm done with this," they're like, "Oh, we're hiring to be the manager." But it
Yeah.
spoke to that tenacity that you just had to keep showing up and you had to continue to be consistent.
Exactly. And being that I was they considered me an introvert, and so I
Right.
wasn't real good at sales in the beginning. I really had to practice.
Mm.
I had to prepare a lot better and a lot harder than maybe, because it came easier for some other people,
Right.
and for me it didn't come easy. But the more preparation I put in, the more successes came, and
Mhm.
then it started to look like it was easy for me, but it wasn't easy. I just kept on doing what I had been doing from the get-go. And so um, stay, whatever it is that you want to be or become,
Mhm.
just be tenacious about it and learn everything about it, and prepare, because
Right.
that's where it's going to be.
Right. And I guess not to harp on on the tea for too long, but I think it's just so important
Yeah.
because um and also I know sometimes people may become bitter in the fact that um some people may become very bitter in the fact that what they how do I say this? Like an experience that they have, say it wasn't positive, and
Yes.
too many times it's there's this message out there that sounds like kumbaya, we can all hold hands and sing. It's like, oh, you can become anything that you want to be. There's a truth to it, not to say, like we said before, everybody can't become Mike, but it's
Yeah.
like your goal may not be to become Mike, but like you said, you have to start at the top with
Hmm.
the first thing first. You have to become self-aware. You have to
Right.
be aware of like who you are, where you are. Yes, there may
Exactly.
be some limitations you have, but focus on the strengths.
That's right.
Once you
Focus on.
spend that time to get clarity, you become aware. With that awareness and with that clarity, become tenacious and prepare with what you have and what you're strong in. So if you're sweeping the floor, become the best floor sweeper. Like I met some plumbers in New York City when I was driving through Manhattan for the first time. And I went up to the Empire State Building just to be able to have like the skyline view because it used to be one of the tallest buildings in New York. And it's been, of
Yeah.
course, surpassed by what was the Twin Tower and then
Yeah.
what replaced him. But as we were talking in the Uber, they were talking about how they started out just cleaning toilets
Yeah.
regularly. And then over time, they developed a business and they not only own their own business and have the management of multiple
Yes.
maintenance or toilet cleaning services throughout New York City, but I think in like Long Island, they've done so well in that arena that
Yes.
they're able to travel into the city during the week during the weekdays where people are going to work, and then they can go home on the weekends and just be there where it's super busy. Everybody wants to go to New York. They're like,
Yeah.
no, they put in the time doing
Yes.
the things that others may see as undesirable, and
Yes.
they continue to um, benefit from the hard work that they put forward. So be all you want to be, but be clear on what that is, and don't
Yes.
misconstrue what someone else is doing for um, what you think you want just because it's being sold to you that way.
Well, and I think, also with the tenacity,
Hmm.
you do not have to have everything right now to be tenacious.
Mm.
It took a while before I became the salesperson I was, because I'd never sold anything before.
Mm.
And so for some people, they think they need to have everything right now. They got to be good at everything right now.
Right.
No, you don't have to be good at everything right now, but you need to be tenacious in your preparation that I'm going to get good.
Right.
Get the mindset that I don't know everything right now, but I'm going to get good at it. And
Right.
so let's get in the game. You can get in the game. You don't know I can't play,
Right.
but I'm in the game. So
Awesome. Talk to me about the I.
the I is for inspiration. I believe that you will do when you're passionate about something,
Mm-hmm.
and you are doing it at the best level that you can, you will inspire people without even saying a word.
Mm.
And I think to be that person, obviously understanding, being clear on whatever your message is or whatever you want to do with your life.
Mm-hmm.
Be passionate about it, because I think we all like to have somebody say, man, that person's good at that.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what it is, I don't care what you do in life, but if somebody says you're good at that, you're inspiring somebody.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever it is, be clear on it, be passionate about it,
Mm-hmm.
and be inspiring, because somebody's going to look at you and say, job well done.
Right.
And for some of us that have not taken action yet,
Mm-hmm.
understand somebody's waiting on you. Somebody wants to be inspired by you.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever it is that you're chasing, your goals, your dreams, be passionate about it.
Right.
So somebody's going to want to be just like you.
Mm.
And just go for it. Be
Right.
passionate about it. And that comes back to a little bit of the self-awareness, just understanding exactly who you are,
Mm-hmm.
and what you really are excited about.
Right.
Are you excited about what you see somebody else doing because
Mm-hmm.
it's financially very successful,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't think that you're going to make a lot of money doing what you do?
Right.
Or you want to do something that's going to make you feel better inside
Right.
than financially. And so just be passionate about it.
Yeah.
Enjoy it. Don't back off.
Mm-hmm.
And I guarantee somebody's going to be inspired by what they see you do.
Right. And I guess another quick story about that being inspiring. I remember someone speaking about how they saw a garbage man do his job so well, and the way that he dressed himself, where he had a like button down shirt tucked in,
Yeah.
pants pressed, and all that. You wouldn't think that that was a garbage man, but from this person seeing them on a daily basis, and from their child seeing them and how they were so friendly and greeting,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, I can aspire to be that,
Yeah.
because it's someone that inspires through their action.
That's
And
right.
that that's something just amazing, because it's like however you present yourself. And for me, having worked in as a technician in paper mills and things like that, I would be in the opposite, where yes, at times you tuck your shirt in, but other times it's like you're trying to get out of the clothes because they smell so bad and they're just rough, you're dirty and everything like
Yeah.
that. But on
Yeah.
the flip side, you see how people may not be inspired. They're very quick to judge you, not
Yes.
knowing that, hey, you could be a millionaire walking around in rags and riches, or in rags and torn up clothes. But just because of how you're perceived, that may
Yes.
change what it is. But so long as you're consistent in your
Yes.
work you will inspire the people you're meant to inspire.
Exactly. I think it may be just like we were talking earlier. It may just be one person.
Right.
But if that one person thinks, man, I like the way you handle what you're doing, doesn't matter what it is, you seem to really enjoy it. So you need to enjoy it, because that's what's going to get you through those difficult days when things aren't going right, to understand.
Awesome. It's funny, and I guess not, well, to linger on it, I'm not going to apologize for what we're doing, because we're enjoying this. And one thing I've got to be grateful to you for, it's like seeing that in recording an episode of the podcast before and then coming back, like making the decision for myself to do the podcast again and to say, okay, like pick up the thing that you enjoy and do it, not just for the recognition. But as I got to doing it, I got to posting, you were like, oh, okay, like, hey, I'm starting to notice you're back out there again with the people. And then we reached out, and lo and behold, we're recording a few episodes back to back, and like the energy keeps flowing. And it's like me having inspired you unknowingly, just by being like, oh, like he's back at it again. And I was like, okay, cool. Like the information I'm putting out is reaching people, although I may not see the numbers. It reminds me, okay, hey, in starting, you're not doing it for the recognition. You're not like, yes, you want it to grow, but remember, you want, I've got to remind myself that I'm highlighting the conversation. I'm highlighting the person that I'm talking to where it's like you see two human beings that are not controlled by fear, and that are able to just be themselves. And it encourages you to be yourself, where it's like, and when I say you, I say it to the person that may be listening, but I'm really talking to my future self, because someone, I was listening to a psychologist say this, is it's like the best way to start taking care of the world is to remember to take care of yourself, because you're a community unto yourself right now. Like there's the you from today, there's the you from a few minutes, a few years, a few hours. So it's like, if you eat that jelly donut right now, hey, it may do good, but also, hey, it's going to satisfy I'm going to keep it positive. It's going to satisfy the you an hour later, where it's like, man, that was such a good thing. But if you do too many, it might affect the guy a year down the line, where it's just like, okay, where did this bottom gut come from? It's like, oh yeah, I remember it's the donuts from 1 p.m. on April 17th, when I had 5, I had 15 in a row. So it's like, just keep that in mind, and inspire yourself first before you seek to inspire somebody. And as you continue to inspire yourself, you will eventually inspire others unbeknownst to you.
That's it. Get you ready on. That's what that's all about.
Get you ready on.
Get you ready on. Right there. Okay, where we're at? We're at O.
We're at the O.
O is opportunities. Most of us, and I'll put myself in that, to seize an opportunity, you're gonna have to go get it. You can't wait for the opportunities. I know that sometimes when you start a business or an individual, you want some opportunities to come your way, but sometimes they're not going to just come your way. And if they do, they're not going to show their face. You know, there might be some opportunities around you that you're not particularly looking at. And they may be looking at you, wondering if you would come to them. So seize the opportunities, understanding that they're just not going to walk up to you. You know, if you're starting a business, but a bunch of people may not come to your business. They may not buy anything from you. But if you go looking for an opportunity, you're going to find one. Right. Go find your audience. Go find the people. Whatever the opportunity is that you're looking for, or you want to be a teacher, you want to be a star basketball player, seize those opportunities and never look down on an opportunity. You know, my father had a saying when I would be complaining about not having something, right? You know, and he would always go to this, and I wish he was here to hear me say it, because he'd be like, "Oh, okay, you remember that." But he used to tell me this. He used to say, "Hey," he says, "you only get 2 opportunities in this world. One, by the grace of God, me and your mother got you here. The second one's on you." go make something happen.
Oh,
And
wow.
so that's an opportunity.
Right.
So you that's what action's about. You
Right.
gotta go get it, because nobody's going to bring it to you. And opportunities have a way of watching you. And then what I'm talking about, especially if you're in a career and you're trying to advance and you're wondering why you're getting passed up and things of that nature,
Yeah.
maybe Mr. Opportunity or Miss Opportunity is watching you, and you're doing something that might be stopping you from getting that opportunity.
Right.
Opportunities kind of look, they're looking at you. I went through, just back to my high school, when I made it back on the football team, and I was at the bottom of the depth chart, and I got frustrated because I didn't see me moving up the depth chart.
Right.
And my coach finally told me, he says, "You're so negative. I don't know if you would see an opportunity if it hit you in the face." I was like, "Oh, okay." And, I remember I walked off, and I was
Right.
like, but it stuck with me.
Right.
So even though you don't have what you think you should deserve right now,
Yeah.
there is an opportunity for you.
Right.
But if you're in that mindset that I deserve this, I should be getting this, I should have this type of mindset, for some reason, they never knock at your door.
Right.
Or if they do, you don't answer it.
True.
Because it's not the right one.
Right.
So opportunities, go
right.
get them, seize them.
Man, I love that. And to pair with your story of the coach, I remember my my wide receiver coach. He was also our track coach, Coach Thompson. I think it was my junior year, and I spoke with him because, like, you do football, wrestling, and then track. That's how the season's kind of laid out. And during, I think we'd spoken like the senior year of, no, it must have been junior year of football, where we, from time to time, we'd go on these camps, like the summer camp, where you go for a week, you train like out in the heat of Tennessee or Georgia, and people are just losing weight. Luckily, we're staying hydrated, not too many people falling out. But we had this fellow, I think it's FCA, fellow Christian.
Fellowship of Christian Athletes.
Yes, Fellowship of Christian Athletes. And we had kind of like I guess I'd want to say a feel good circle where you kind of sit, people talk, they give testimonies and things like that. And they kind of ask the seniors, or like the soon to be seniors, what are some things that you wish that, what are some of the things you want from the team? And for me, myself, I spoke up and I said, I just want honesty, because it's a lot of times we talk about where people are, what they're going to do, and how they're going to get there. But then it's almost like you're being sold a bag of goods. Like, it's fun to come in here and just rag on us and just be like, oh, we're terrible, we're this, we're that, and then never be honest about if we're going to get to where we're being told we're going to get to, or am I going to be playing JV forever and never get to start? And I think the conversation that Coach Thompson had with me to the side before like a track meet, he almost gave me a chance to be like, okay, here's the truth. You're very nonchalant when it comes to football. And it's something that I learned a little bit more in wrestling, but I didn't quite capture it to like take it to the next level. Because Coach Mitchell, who I've interviewed, he came on and he was our coach my junior and senior year. And that really changed it to where he had that, hey, you guys suck right now. That's what people think of you. They don't think anything of you, but I believe in you enough. And here's what we're going to do. There's that clarity. And then just the tenacity of just over and over and over. And he found different ways to inspire us and presented us with opportunities to take us from one place to the other, like exposing us to different types of wrestling, different opponents, different schedules and things like that, different workouts. And the thing I didn't like about what the coach said, but it was so true, and it still rings to this day, where I can finally accept it and move forward and be like, okay, I may have a tendencies of like an S personality, so to say, where you're passive, you can be nonchalant, but when it comes to competition, when it comes to, if you're going to be a great wide receiver, if you're going to be a great hurdler, you can't just be laissez-faire in a race. Like, if you really want to get it, you have to put everything into it, regardless if you think your legs are going to fail you, if you think you're going to crap yourself because of like, oh, I don't know what I ate or anything like that. You can't be having and I'll tell that story maybe another time,
Yeah,
but you can't have all those things just riding in your head if
that's
you're
right.
going to
Mine.
seize the opportunity that presents itself. Because it was like after he told me that, I think at one of the last track meets in the year, he challenged me. I think it was with like a 400 or eight. It was an
Yeah,
800-meter race because I think I ran long distance for a time, and then again junior year, sophomore year, switched
yeah,
to hurdles and mid distance. So 300-meter hurdles, 800-meter race, 1 mile instead of the 2 mile.
yes,
And it was like, okay, I want you to give it your all in this 800 meters. Like, show me that you deserve to start in the coming year. But
yeah.
again, with me being my own egotistical self,
Hmm.
I took it as to like, okay, I hear what you're saying and I'm going to try. But then
Yeah,
the end result didn't show that. I was so
yeah,
focused on the fatigue, the this,
yeah,
the that, to where when I'm able to interrogate reality for that time and not place any blame, it's just, okay, I was in a place where I couldn't see the opportunity. The
yes,
opportunity was watching me, where in that
yeah,
sense, the coach was watching me to give me the opportunity. But
yes,
like you're saying too, the negativity that you presented, I know that I brought a lot of negativity with me. Although
yeah,
my name may be happy, and although I
yeah,
may be happy at times with my friends, I continued to carry those
yes,
doubts, those worries, the things of like, okay, you're not doing this. Like people may call you Butterfingers or couldn't
yeah,
catch the ball for a time because hand and eye coordination wasn't
yes,
that good. I later found out that I
yeah,
needed to wear contacts in order to see because I didn't have the goggles and I was worried
yeah,
about what it was going to look like. But the
yes,
moment I got contacts, I was able to at least see the ball and I had a
yeah,
chance to catch it.
yes,
But I thought I just wanted to share that because I was like,
yes.
as we're
Good
talking,
stuff.
I'm reflecting on it, and I know we're talking about the acronym, and you just told me about it briefly, and I'm just placing myself in the situation to just make it more real, not to say, okay, hey, we're just here shooting an infomercial. It's like,
Yes,
no, we're having a conversation about a specific topic, and we're
that's right.
relating it to our lives to where it would make sense to me and you listening back
Yeah,
to it, but also I think it will make sense to someone else to say, here's here are two people and here's specific places in their lives where they notice something and
hmm,
here's what they're doing with the information now.
yeah,
So now I don't dwell on that anymore. I remember that, hey, out of everything that happened in track, I may not have ever won a race. I think I may be placed second or third in a
yeah,
race, but like I know one time I did show up, but
yes,
since I wasn't used to showing up consistently, I showed up in practice all the time. But then when
yeah,
it was showtime, it's like
yes,
all the other angst and stuff would kind of come too. But I was like,
yeah,
hey, I know at times I've seized the opportunity and I ran a 5:30
yeah,
minute mile. It's like if I really want to, I can do that. But at
yeah,
the moment, that's not my goal. So that's not an opportunity
yeah,
that I'm seizing. If and when that
exactly.
comes, I'll go that direction.
And I think it has a lot to do, first of all, great story. It has a lot to
Thank you.
do with, how bad you want it. How bad do you want that opportunity?
Right.
You're willing to put in all this transformation and not, and not be ready for the opportunity to take it.
Right.
And some people, this that might be right where the rubber meets the road,
Hmm.
because now, oh, okay, oh, I got the opportunity. Okay, now I got to really go show that I can handle the
Right.
opportunity. And
Right.
so, but I think if you get your mind right, you get your
Hmm.
mindset, just go seize the opportunity
Hmm.
and be tenacious when you get there.
Right.
Be tenacious when you get there. And so, but that's
Yeah.
good stuff right there.
Bring it on
Yeah.
home with the end.
Yes, the end. Oh, this is the end is about never quitting
Right.
and never quitting, but never quitting on your dreams.
Mm.
You never quit on your dreams and goals that you have told yourself that you wanted to have. Yes, it could be difficult getting there. Yes, the journey is long, but never give up on your dreams. And then, more importantly, your dreams are non negotiable. And
Mm.
here's what I mean by that: we negotiate a lot of things in our lives, clothes, what we eat, relationships, cars, just a lot of things we negotiate on. Your dreams have to be non-negotiable. And what I mean is that when you are telling somebody what you dream of being or who you want to be, do not let them negotiate you out of it, to the point to where when you walk away from them, you now start to think that maybe I don't want that dream. Maybe I can't do that dream. So tell yourself your dreams are non-negotiable. And if you have a dream, tell it to somebody that can help you. You know, if you negotiate with somebody that don't have a dream, they're going to talk you out of it every time. They're going to tell you it's going to take too much work.
Right.
You sure about that? You don't have the money for that right now. Whatever it is that's going to put you right back into the spot before you even started the journey. I know that. I've been there. I've had people talk me out of my dreams. And I know some people might say, well, you shouldn't have let them do that. But that happens in life.
Right.
But the thing that I learned most about that is that when I did obtain what I needed to obtain, is that I was very careful about who I told my dreams to.
Right.
I remember when I was telling you about the losing the weight, I had two buddies that I told. Right. And they never asked me if that's what I wanted to do. Could you do it? You sure? What they told me is, when do we start? I said, we start tomorrow. Let's go.
Right. That's awesome.
Yeah. And that's how the journey needs to be. When you take action, make sure that you got the right people on board that can help you. When you start to backslide or you start to not think that you can get there, that they'll tell you, yeah, you can. And I got your back.
Right.
I got your back. So be careful who you tell your dreams to.
Right. I love that, because take action, because as I'm thinking of it and relating it to what I've been listening to recently, we're talking about with the action, it's almost like it's tied to the emotions that you have. And listening to Jim Rohn, he spoke on resolve and having it defined by an elementary school kid or a middle schooler, and she was promising yourself that you'll never quit. And like you said, you don't want to quit on your dreams, because as bleak as the situation may be, or as bad as things may get around you, I think it's always present. I don't even want to say now more than ever, because it's always, there's always a reason not to do what you know to yourself to do, like whether it's showing up to work, it's showing up for yourself first and foremost, showing up to the people you made commitments to. But you have to be committed to a dream, to yourself. Otherwise, it becomes easy to um, part ways with what you decided you were going to do. And I think it really goes a long way to understand that just because it may be taking longer, or you're not there yet, it doesn't mean you've given up. Like, if that idea still rings in your head, I love what you said about telling it to the people that can help you, because telling it to anybody else, you may be seeking affirmation where you're not going to get it. And especially different people come from different backgrounds. But I heard a clip earlier say that your family or your friends that you knew, whenever a stranger may support you, because a stranger, depending on who they are, more times than not, they want the best for you. But family or friends that may not support you, and I say may not because there's many that do, because they've supported you to this end, whether it was positive or negative. But the ones that are not willing to support you or may voice concerns may be worried, or they may be doing it out of fear, because they're where you used to be and they know where you used to be. So you don't have to throw people away or throw the baby out with the bathwater, but tell your dreams to the people that you know are going to support it, because you've seen them do that or something similar. And don't be afraid to reach out to people, even if it's through Instagram and things like that. If you've observed somebody and they seem like someone that's approachable, take a leap of faith and approach them, because you never know. They could just be looking to mentor someone.
That's
They could
right.
be looking to inspire someone and impart the knowledge that they have. So
Yes.
don't ever
Right.
think yourself too small or too big to give and receive help.
Yes, and just kind of just to piggyback a little bit, you take a look at what's been happening in the country for a year and a half
Mhm.
prior to COVID, then COVID.
Yeah.
I know personally a lot of friends of mine that really quit dreaming.
Mm.
Kind of put everything on hold.
Right.
This deal to get over with and stuff of
Right.
that nature. Well, now we're a year later,
Yeah.
and we're still in it.
Yeah.
And if we're not careful,
Mhm.
I'm not careful, I'll be in the same situation at the end of this year
Right.
as I was in 2020. And I think I've talked to a lot of people and they feel the same way. They want to get going again,
Right.
but they're struggling with getting going again.
Right.
And that's what happens when, um, and hopefully we can get past COVID. And I
Yeah.
pray for all the people that uh, got sick, lost loved ones, and things of that nature.
Mhm.
But life has a way of keep moving,
Mhm.
and if we're not careful, we'll be giving up some more years, and before we get our footing back again. And
Right.
we want to do everything that we can to help empower people to take
Mhm.
action.
Right.
I don't do whatever it is. We want you to empower them to take action and to move forward and live that life that they promised to themselves.
Right.
Because it's it- the life is challenging.
Yeah.
And it's going to continue to be challenging. That's why we always say, when the game of life starts to challenge you, get you ready on,
Yeah.
because it's just going to be challenging tomorrow. Tomorrow's another battle.
Yeah.
But I'll take care of today. I'm gonna win today. If I don't
Yeah.
get to tomorrow, I'm gonna win this one.
Right.
And so, but yeah, never give up, never quit, and don't negotiate with somebody that they don't have no dreams.
Yeah. You just reminded me of episode number 40, talking with some of the associates at GNC, and one of them was talking about just getting ready to do battle with life, and whether you're doing close combat with someone
Hmm.
or just having that experience and understanding that you take that same approach and you apply it to your life, you apply it
Yes,
to your day to say, hey, whether it's hitting the snooze alarm or fighting your body that's
yes,
physically ailing or aching, it's that you have to fight your thoughts and set your day before you go to sleep, plan to go to sleep well,
mhm,
and plan to wake up and say, this is what we're doing, this is how we're doing it.
that's right.
And also getting in communities like you and I have
Yes,
joined, and say, if it's not like, say, a Breathe University, a Toastmasters, um, different things like that. It's just hilarious how things just show up the moment that you get that resolve where you say, okay, this is what I want. I'm sick and tired of doing this. I want to do something different. More
yes,
times than not, that presents itself one way or another. Like Rochelle T. Parks, for instance, she's in the fitness space, and
yes,
I see she's doing her thing on YouTube now, but she's been doing it for years on end through being in the military,
yes,
getting ready for retirement, and she started planning and strategizing like, this is what I want to do outside of the military. She wrote a
yes,
book, she put it out, and what she does continues to live and breathe that dream and that
yes.
goal. And
That's
it's
right.
very it's inspiring, and
Yeah,
it's one of those just like very aware, like, okay, I know when I say these words, these are the things I bring to me, and when I speak differently, I
yes,
take different action. I I'm clear on what it is that I want. Like they started within like Breathe University, it was like they have morning accountability calls. They
yes,
have things as to say, whenever I jumped on those calls a couple of times, I'm not doing it now because again,
yes,
self-awareness, although
yes,
something may be good, it may
yes,
be good for a time, and then other times you might need to I needed to take a break and to say,
yes,
spend some time with Asher, get clear on what it is that I'm doing now, where I'm going, where I need to be this week, a month from now, 6
mhm,
months, a year, 2 years, and just putting it down on paper,
yes,
not to be like, "Oh, this has to happen like this, otherwise, like, my life is a failure." It's like, no, just I put
yes,
down the goals, some things happened, some things didn't. I got
Yeah.
discouraged, but being around people and getting acquainted with people during the good times, those people were able to reach out to me, and having a good relationship with my parents, good enough to where I could come home during a challenging time.
Yeah.
It makes it to where now when um, I'm able to have another plan to bounce back. That was my
Yeah.
mom.
Yeah.
I'm able to bounce back now during a time where it gets hard,
Yeah.
because at the times when I was doing well, I did
Yeah.
well, and I allowed that to help other people.
Yes.
And either the people that I help and the people I'm fortunate to have within my family look out for me
Yes.
when things aren't so good, to where when I'm back on my feet now and I'm getting better, it's like, "Oh,
Yeah.
okay, hey, can you help me with this?" And I was like,
Yeah.
"Yes, I got you." Because not only because out of obligation, because I'm now capable of doing it, because I'm no longer down there,
Yes.
and to not get back into the ditch or to just linger in the valley, I'm learning to appreciate what it was when I was in the valley, because it's
Yeah.
like today's valley might become tomorrow's peak,
Yeah.
but you got to learn how to appreciate the both, where things are going to go up and they're going to come down. And it's just like, I read the book, I
Yeah.
think from Spencer Johnson years ago, but like living an experience and like reading it, I think are two different things. But
Hmm.
there's an appreciation I gain from both, to just be like, oh, okay, like now it makes sense. And like I'm able to almost like multiply and receive what it is
Yeah.
that was given to me through that book, but just to like recall on it and just be like,
Yeah.
okay, like we've been here before. It's like
Yeah.
a Dave Chappelle joke where I think he got in trouble with it, but he was talking about um different grouping of people and
Yeah.
seeing like how they're all driving in a car, and it's like you have you have one group that's just like, huh, it's okay, we'll be driving, we built these roads.
Yeah.
But I'll leave that there. But man, it's like, I'm so glad you decided to do this, and I'm glad that
Oh yeah.
you're focused on your dream. And I'm curious
Yeah.
to ask you, did something discourage you from focusing on just Get You Ready On, or what got you, did something get you off, and then what got you back on track?
Well, Get You Ready On has always been, first of all, it originated with us coaching a flag football team.
Mm,
And in order to get the young men minds ready for the game, we say, hey, when we say get you ready on, that means
mm,
focus. That
right.
means time to take action. And
Gotcha.
so it started from us coaching a flag football team.
Okay.
But the reality of life is you have to do that all the time.
Mm,
You've got to do that all day.
right.
And of course, over the years, as years keep piling up, things kept coming up that was more important
Mm,
than Get You Ready On. But the problem is I could never get rid of it. And
mm,
this is something that I want to say. If you've got a vision on your heart and you got a vision on your mind, and every time you don't do it, it keeps coming back to the forefront, it's probably because you need to be doing it.
right.
God has put that on your heart to get that done. And that's what he has done for me. Every time I put it aside, I always go back to it.
Yeah.
And so to answer your question, I was working with one of the young men that was on the flag football team, talking to
Okay.
him one day, and he was struggling with some stuff.
Mhm.
They were 9 years old when we talked about it. Now
Right.
he's 25, 26 years old.
Oh,
And
wow.
he says, Coach, I always remember to get you ready on.
Right.
He says, I always remember you talking about that. And he says, I'm struggling a little bit, but things are getting better. He
Mhm.
says, I'm getting my mind back in the game and stuff.
Right.
And it rejuvenated me.
Mm.
Because like I told you, if only one person gets the message,
Yeah.
I'm good.
Right.
And that one person got the message. But then I thought to myself, maybe there's two people.
Mm.
And so therefore I just thought, maybe I need to put my energy into this Get You Ready On. Because
Mhm.
you mentioned something about the valleys and the peaks.
Right.
And, I had a gentleman ask me he kind of told me the other day, he said, well, I stay ready, and I said, well, that's good, because a lot of people don't stay ready for everything, because life throws things at you just don't know about. But what we want to do, we want to empower people to get you ready on Valley, so you can get to Stay Ready Mountain. But you got to go through the valley to get to the mountaintop.
Right.
That's what Get You Ready On. We at the bottom. We want to empower people to take action today on their lives, their dreams, and we've got strategies and tools that will help you, whether you're an individual, whether you're a company, wherever you're at in this situation. Get You Ready On. We're hoping to get the message out and build a community of like-minded people that want to take action. And hopefully some of those people can help you move forward to what you're trying to achieve. And you might be able to help somebody move forward to what they're trying to achieve. Because we all have a message and a story, and we need to be heard. And so that got me rejuvenated.
Gotcha.
got me going again.
Well, I mean, since we're there, go ahead and tell the people where, how they can join this program, how they can start to take action to build that self-awareness, to gain the clarity, to become tenacious in their preparation, and to just become inspiring in their work, and to decide to claim the opportunities that are looking at them and that they need to be chasing, and to never quit on their dreams.
Yes. First of all, you could go to averyhicks.com and you can submit a form to where you put your name and your email and a phone number, and then we'll reach back out to you. And when we reach back out to you, we just want to know where you're being stuck at. We want to make sure, for some people, maybe you've already taken action. Maybe you're self-aware, you know who you are, but you're struggling with clarity. I'm struggling with clarity, or I'm struggling how to seize an opportunity, or I'm struggling in, what is the preparation? How do you get tenacious in your preparation? And so you may be in one of those, or you may need all of them. If you're an individual or a company, we work with communication and things for companies where they're having some issues with a sales team or sales organization. And so averyhicks.com, or I can be reached at area code 405-292-4055. Apologize. Area code 405-295-4022. And you can text me or you can call me. I'll answer the phone personally, because I just want to get you involved and help you get to your dreams like I'm chasing my dreams. Here's the thing. I'm no better than anybody. I have a methodology that I've been doing for over 30 years. I manage dealerships with salespeople, and I help move them in their lives and help change their careers. And so I do have management and sales training for 35 years. And so I've got a lot of programs that I know will help an individual move the needle in their life and career.
Awesome. With that, we'll sign out. Thank you, sir.
All righty. Thank you. Appreciate it, Asher.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
Yeah.
This is the It's My Time podcast with Asher Tchoua.